episode 45 of the Little Drops of Wonderful podcast. My name is Ali. I live in Kent in the UK with my husband and our two daughters who are 8 and 13. And you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Starry Eyes Ali, and all of the show notes and also the timestamps for everything I'm going to talk about are underneath this video in the description box. Is that everything? I think I'm quite impressed that I remembered everything to say. It's been a month since our last podcast. So welcome back if you're a returning viewer, and welcome if you're new as well. If you are a returning viewer, you will know that it's been a good month since our last podcast. Sorry about that. I didn't intend to be away quite so long. We've had builders in doing our bathroom, which has just caused chaos, and also has meant that we've had people in the house all the time, and I couldn't podcast when I had builders coming through the kitchen and sawing wood in the garden and so on and so forth. And I haven't had the space to even think about it. I had a bath in my living room for a large portion of the last 4 weeks. I had a toilet in my bedroom, and the entire contents of the bathroom were just basically spread all over the house. It's been chaos. But I'm going to film a little bit of the new bathroom to stick at the end of this video, so you know what has been going on and can see the result of it. I also haven't really had the headspace for filming. Just not been in a great place in my head for things at the moment. I've just felt the need to step back a little bit. I took an unintentional break from Instagram for a little while, just because I think it was partly because of all the chaos at home. It was harder to stay on top of the everyday things like cleaning the house and doing the laundry and all of the chores that go with it whilst that was going on. So something had to give, and it was the podcast. So anyway, I'm here now, and because I am going away next week to Spain, I am going to Spain for 3 nights and 4 days with my 2 best friends from university. So that's going to be the longest time I've ever left the kids, other than being in hospital. So I do have a large amount of mum guilt about that, but it should be good, and I might actually get to read a book. It's going to be really hot, so I don't know if it's going to be the right kind of holiday for knitting or crochet, but I might take something because it won't be hot on the plane. So I wanted to get a podcast out before then. I've also done a kind of May vlog, which I'm going to upload. I'm not sure if it would be of interest to anyone else other than if you've got kind of if you're invested in the podcast. So I might see if I can upload it and just do it as a link, which I can then also, it'll be in the show notes underneath, and I'll put something on the screen once I've worked out what I'm going to do. Okay, rambling already. Today we are going to talk about finished objects, works in progress, a project from Yore, the Dodgy Bag Make-Along, which is in full swing and has been extended until the end of June, but we'll talk about that later in the episode. I've got a Sharing the Love section, and I'm going to announce the giveaway winners for the giveaways from last episode. I was going to do some patterns on my radar, but I think we'll leave that till next time because we're definitely going to run out of time for that. So let's get stuck in. Oh, before I do, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone for your comments on the last episode. I haven't replied to any. I usually do. I'm usually quite good at replying to comments. I haven't been. Again, just my lack of headspace and time has led to me not being able to do that. So I apologise for that, because I do prefer to interact with the people that watch this podcast. It's one of the great pleasures of doing it, but I just have not had the time. And I just wanted to thank you, because I had said, is there anything I can do? Is there anything I could improve? I want to make sure the podcast is of value. And I just had so many positive comments, and I was really nervous about asking actually for constructive criticism or feedback, and it was nice to know that you're just happy with me bumbling along as I am. So thank you so much for taking the time to comment and to be so encouraging. I've read every single one. If you've got a like, then I've read it and I've taken it in. I just have not had the headspace or the time or the lack of builder time to reply to everyone, but thank you. What was I talking about? Oh, right, yes, we were going to get started on the podcast. So, one more thing is us. Right, we're going to get into finished objects, of which I have How many finished objects? I've got one knitting finished object, a new craft finished object, and I've got a load of dodgy bags, but I think I'll cover those when we talk about the Dodgy Bag MAL. But before I do, I am going to Fibre East at the end of July. I'm going on the Sunday the 28th of July. Are you going to Fibre East? Please leave me a comment and let me know. It'd be lovely to say hello to people who watch the podcast, or just say hello to people generally. So yeah, if you are going to Fibre East, do let me know. And I'm also going to be going to both days of the Southern Wool Show, which is in Newbury in it's the last weekend of August, beginning of September. So I think it's Saturday the 31st of August, Sunday the 1st of September. And that'll be my mum and I going to that, because she didn't come last year. My sister and I went and we really liked it. And yeah, so we're going to go along to that. So if you're going to either of those yarn festivals, please do let me know. It'd be lovely to arrange to say hello, etc. Right, I promise you I'm now going to start talking about knitting. Oh, my timer's going off. Alexa, stop. Right, sorry, that's my timer because I've been brewing my tea. This is my new mug that one of my friends who I'm going to Spain with actually, she got me for my birthday in April. I love it. It's a really nice size. I think it's just for next. And it's got A on it, obviously, for Ali. And in it, I have got my little tea infuser, because I am drinking the most scrumptious tea, and it has to brew for 10 minutes. So I have the timer on. And it is this. I promise you we're going to get to knitting in a minute. I am rambling so much. We went to a farmer's market at the weekend in Tunbridge, which is just about half an hour away here in Kent. And there was a guy there from East Sussex, which is the next county over. And he was selling all kinds of black tea, rooibos tea and fruit tea. So I got this one because it's got apple, roasted coconut, coconut chips, freeze-dried pineapple, and it just sounded lovely, and it is. I had one as soon as I got back, and it's so tasty. They're called the Proper Tea Company, and they're based in Pett in East Sussex. And they go to the Tunbridge Farmers Market every second Sunday of the month. Actually, no, stop talking. We'll get to that. We'll get to it. Start talking about finished objects. Right. My first finished object is my scrappy socks. Now, I spoke about these last time, and I think they were getting there. They were very nearly finished. And these are socks that I made with minis that I got for my birthday from Lily of Nordic Stitches. She sent me a load of minis in an Easter egg, and I added some minis to it. I think I added one of the little friend. Oh, what did I do actually? No, did I have to add minis in the end? I can't remember. It's on the Ravelry page. They have a Ravelry page, which I neglected to look at before I started filming. But they are mostly using the minis that I got for my birthday from Lily. Oh, no, that's what no, she sent me some minis and she sent me some additional minis as well. So she sent me a little Easter egg, kind of Easter Advent thing. And then she sent me additional minis as well. So they're all mini skeins that I got from Lily. So yeah, and I'm really, really pleased with these. I really, really enjoyed doing them. What I did was to finish them off. So I think I did, how many rounds? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I think 18 rounds of each colour. Because I started with the cuff, and I did 18 rounds on the cuff. So I did 18 rounds of each colour. And then when I got to the end and I'd done 18 rounds of this last colour, I just needed enough to finish the toes. So I used the same yarns that I'd done for the cuffs. So on this one, the cuff is also just in the toe. And on this one, as you can see, the cuff is what matches the end of the toe. And I really like the way that looked. And I am definitely going to be making more scrappy things, and scrappy socks and scrappy arm warmers and a scrappy top. Lovely viewer of this podcast, Hilary, sent me a pattern for forgotten the name of it, but it's a top that uses all different colours of yarn. I'll put the name on the screen because I can't remember. Yeah, I'm really pleased with these. I would recommend making scrappy socks. When I joined in the colours, I used the method that is by the Cozy Knitter, and I refer to that in my pattern page for the striped mittens by Adedaye mittens. It's on my Ravelry, and on that I link to the Cozy Knitter tutorial for joining in ends as you go, and I find that that gives a really nice join. Yeah, anyway, I'm really chuffed to bits with those. Yeah, so that's finished object number 1. My next finished object is not knitting, and it is not crochet. I'm looking around for somewhere to put these, and honestly there isn't a single space anywhere to put on the floor. Yes, it's not knitting and it's not crochet, it is weaving. So many moons ago, Hannah from Sheep's Alley, Hannah from Sheep's Alley podcast, and I did a little swap, and in that swap she put in a miniature weaving loom, and I meant to do it for ages but I just never got round to it. So I watched a few tutorials online and I thought, right, I'm going to do it. It was pre-strung, so it had all the strings on it already. So all I needed to do was just watch a couple of tutorials, grab some yarn, scraps and go. And I made this. It's surprisingly hard to make it in miniature because when it came to finishing it off, it was a bit of a palaver. The yarn I used was just stuff I had lying around. So the gold and the purple and the kind of variegated purple, they are all silk yarn, and then there's a blue fuzzy one, and I've no idea what it is, but it's really fuzzy and probably not the best yarn to use because it just kept fuzzing. The more I worked with it, the more it fuzzed. But yeah, here's my little miniature weaving wall hanging. I put it on a twig that I found underneath a hydrangea bush in the garden. And I really enjoyed doing it. It was such a lovely process. I would definitely want to do more weaving. I don't know if you can see, but at the top here, there's almost like a little braid, like a plait. That's because that's exactly what it is. It is a plait that I have sewed on after I finished it off because I made such a mess of tying off the top. I will show you the back to give you an idea of the mess that I made finishing it off and the terrible processes I have used. But do you know what? That's the back, and you ain't ever gonna see the back. That's what you're gonna see. You don't need to know the mess that's going on underneath. So that's my little miniature wall hanging. Yeah, really liked it. I've got a couple of bits of cardboard that I saved from the stuff that the bathroom came in, and that I'm going to turn into makeshift looms that are a bit bigger so I can experiment and have a go. It's an extremely relaxing craft, very forgiving. It's very it's very hard to make a mistake that you can't cover up or undo very easily, and for that reason I think it could be something I really enjoy. For starting new crafts, for me at the moment, it's about finding the headspace to get into it. So obviously I need to make a little mini loom out of cardboard, but I need to find the time and space in my mind to actually get around to doing that. Then I need to gather the materials, and again, because it's a new craft, it's not something that's instinctive, and I find that I question things a lot when I start a new craft. Like I worry that I'm not doing it properly, which in a creative sense is nuts because there is no properly, is there? There is no right or wrong, you just do what you want. Yes, so that's my other finished object. All of my other finished objects are sewing projects. They are all dodgy bags, and I will talk about those under the Dodgy Bag MAL. So let's move on to works in progress. I've just grabbed all of my works in progress, and I have made literally no notes about this, so we're winging this section. And we're also not talking about all of my works in progress. I'm not going to talk about Dan's socks that I'm making him. I'm not going to talk about my scrappy blanket. And I'm not going to talk about a couple of other things. Because otherwise I think we'd be here until next Monday and I've got to pack. is so nice, honestly. Lovely, tastes like pina colada. Right, my first work in progress, I made a load of notes about, and I have left them upstairs. Can I be bothered to go and get them, or can I remember? Let's try and go from memory. So this is I want to hold it this way because that's how you would hold it if it was a shawl, but it's not a shawl, it's a top. And this is the bottom, and I'm about to start working flat to turn it into a rectangle. This is a pattern by Natalie of Detroit Knots. It is the My Favourite Jeans top, so called because she made it with Lion Brand jeans yarn. I'm making it with Paintbox Simply Aran, which is a slightly different weight to the one in the pattern. I've had issues with measurements and gauge. So the problem I've had is my gauge is coming out very slightly. Oh, this is so confusing. My stitch gauge is coming out slightly over, so I'm getting more stitches per inch. My row gauge is coming out slightly over, so I'm getting less stitches per inch, which in theory should mean that this measurement across the bottom here, which relies on row gauge, should be bigger than the measurements given in the pattern, but it's not, it's smaller, which is confusing. So after much umming and ahhing and measuring and calculating and head scratching and navel gazing and other such things, I decided to just make the next size up, because the measurements that I was getting for the medium size were so far out that I thought it'd just be better to make the large size. The measurements are still out, even trying to make the large size, but it's such a simple pattern so far, and because the yarn is Aran, it works up really quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this panel and apply it to my body or to a t-shirt that I already wear to see if I'm liking the idea of the fit it's going to give. And if I have to undo it, that's fine, because it's not going to take, it's taken me, I've done this 3 times now, this little section, and honestly it's not been a chore at all. In fact, it's been really, really lovely pattern to work on. The colours are not ones I would usually choose. These were a gift. It isn't yarn I would usually choose, but they were a gift from my non-knitting friend, my oldest friend. A couple of years ago for my birthday, she bought me a big box of yarn, and she knows nothing about knitting or crochet or anything like that, but decided to buy me yarn. Sorry, I'm taking a sip mid-sentence, just really tasty. She decided to buy me yarn, and it was just such a lovely thing to do. So she got me a load of Paintbox Aran, a load, oh, it's got fluff on it, a load of Paintbox cotton DK, and also some acrylic DK, which I'm using to make a bag. Oh, I haven't worked on that in a while. Where's that? Oh, I need to look that out. That would be a good thing to make for having ready for Fibre East, wouldn't it? Right, hopefully next time I'll show you a bag. So I gathered all the colours that kind of matched each other. So there was a load of greens which are going into the bag, and then the purples which are going into the top. I'm liking how they're working up. I'm doing a slightly different sort of stripe sequence than in the pattern, but I like it. Hopefully I'll have enough yarn as well. Yeah, so I'm going to persevere, inspired by the likes of Hannah from the Cozy Cottage Crochet, who makes so many lovely crochet garments, and inspired by Lorraine from Elines Crafts podcast. She has just learnt to crochet and just kind of went, right, I'm learning to crochet, I'm just going to make a top, and then just made the most amazing cotton lace summer top, even though she's a beginner crocheter, and she was like, I'm just going to make it. And I just spent hours going, oh, I'm not sure, you know, I've been crocheting for a long time now, and I do consider myself to be a good crocheter and to know quite a bit about it. Obviously we're always learning all the time, but I'm so cautious. I'm so cautious about everything. Oh, you know, I don't, well, the measurement's not quite right, and oh, I don't know about this. And there's Lorraine going, I'm just going to make a top, and then it just comes out fabulous. And it's just like, I need to stop being quite so tiptoey about things. I should just, you know, jump in, have a go, and what's the worst that can happen if it doesn't work out? You just frog it back and start again. Is my fringe okay? I had it cut and it's a little bit shorter than normal. It's quite hard to get it to sit. I've also got really grey hair at the moment. It's another reason, another thing that happens when you have builders in the bathroom. I couldn't dye my hair because I didn't have a bath, you know, to rinse it off afterwards. And now that the bathroom's done, I don't want to dye my hair in the bathroom because I'm terrified of ruining anything. So I think I'm going to put the dye on in the kitchen and then very carefully rinse it off in the new bath. Another tangent, but anyway, this is the My Favourite Jeans top, and hopefully I'm going to put some work into this and see how we go and stop being so cautious and scaredy cat about things. Right, let's pop that over there. Next thing in my works in progress. Right, this is living in my Piggies Market bag, which I love. I love this print so much, I can't even tell you. It makes me so happy. I would happily have this print in a frame on my wall. It reminds me of Denmark because of the bikes. And in it is my Souvenir Shawl. Oh dear, look at the raggedy pattern here. Oh, there's no point showing you the pattern. It's too faded and crinkled. But it's a souvenir shawl. And this is a pattern that came to my attention because Ellie, who is Will To I Am, made me a souvenir shawl of my own with yarn that she won on a giveaway on this podcast. And I love that shawl. It's a one skein project, and the designer of it actually gave it to me as a gift. I think I had been talking about it here or on Instagram. Look at that, stopped mid-row. Well, that's going to cause issues, isn't it? I'm going to not be able to... Why have I stopped mid-row? That's so peculiar. I'm on the lace section, basically. I've not got much left to go. So, and I've really enjoyed it, but I've had a couple of hiccups, and lovely Ellie, who had made it for me, has been at the end of the messages on Instagram when I have messaged her going, what does that mean? And she has really, really helped me. So I am on the lace row. I have done 8 rows. Hang on. So there are, okay. So there are 5 repeats of the lace section before you bind off, and I've done 2 of them. So I've got basically 3 more repeats of the lace section to go, and then I am done. But I did get a little bit confused with one section of the chart, which Ellie has now clarified for me, and I wish that I hadn't just put it down at that point. I should have just kept going, because I've only got about, what, 15 rows to go, and now I'm going to have to go back through those messages and reacquaint myself with the pattern and get back into it. Whereas if I had just stuck with it, I wouldn't have to put so much brain power back into it again. But the yarn is was a gift from lovely Lou, who's a viewer of this podcast and a friend that I've met a few times now. And she sent this to me as a gift. It's Snowdrop, and it is by Norah George. And because I'm mid-row, it's going to be really hard to show you, but you can see it's got that lovely kind of spine like that, and I'm just getting into the lace. I love knitting lace. It is one of my, I find it such a joy to do. It's one of my favourite things to do, knitting lace. Yeah, so what else to say about that other than thank you, Ellie, for all of your help, for my frantic messages. But I really, really love it. I want to get it finished. And I'm so close to finishing. I'm a bit annoyed with myself, actually. I'm a little bit annoyed with myself. It's a lovely, lovely pattern. I would definitely make more of these souvenir shawls. I think they're absolutely lovely. And being the owner of one, I can say that they're really lovely shape to wear as well. They're a really good size. So, rambling. Shut up. Stop talking. Next work in progress. Oh, what's in here? Oh, right, yes. Okay, so this is this is my, what I like to call my Hannah bag. I made this quite a few episodes ago. I will put on the screen which episode I talk about this. It's made up. I just crocheted a, there's hair on it. I crocheted a circle, and when it was wide enough, I just kept going up the sides, and then I did some finagling at the top to make handles, and then I added a tassel and some little decorations. And it's called a Hannah bag because this is completely inspired by Hannah from Sheep's Alley. She often makes bags, or in her earlier podcast, she often made bags with them lots of strands of yarn held together. So this is actually 2 strands of chunky. Oh no, it's not. No, it's one strand of chunky and 2 strands of DK. And I did it all with a 5mm hook, so it has a little bit of structure to it. Actually holding this now and looking at it, I'm thinking I need to make more of these because I love making these bags. It's a really good way to use up leftovers. It's a really good way to I use it as a way of using up my old acrylic stash because I don't buy acrylic anymore. Yeah, and it's a really enjoyable project to do. Anyway, inside is another crochet project, and it is not looking like much. I'm making this out of Drops Musket, which is a DK mercerized cotton. Is that the right way to say it? Mercerized, not mercer-sized, mercerized cotton. I've got a little matching pouch in here that I made. It's a little matching drawstring pouch for my stitch markers because I had some yarn left over. Yeah, so, and this is about the only colour I'm going to need apart from whatever colour I want to make the bow. So this is from the Zumigurumi 8 book that you will recognise because I gave away a copy on Instagram and I gave away a copy on this podcast. The lovely people at Meteor Books, this is the second time they have given me books to give away, and I really do appreciate it. And each of those times they have given me my own copy. I love these books. I already owned Zumigurumi books before they'd contacted me, so I already knew that I liked them. They've got some wonderful crochet designers in them, and I just find the patterns to be so well written, and I've never had one come out badly. They're all brilliant. I haven't decided what colour bow he or she is going to have. It will be determined by what I've got in my cotton stash. Yeah, so I'm making Sammy the Seal, and I love making amigurumi. I particularly love making amigurumi with cotton because it just wears so well and it looks so lovely and clean and crisp when it's finished. And this is an absolutely lovely little project because it's just so simple. It's just the body and then some limbs, and that's about it. And obviously the bow. And I'm just using scrap yarn as a stitch marker. Yeah, I find that's the best thing to do when you're making amigurumi, is just to use waste yarn, and you can just carry it on up. Helps you keep track of counting your rows as well. So that is my next work in progress. I'm loving it. It's nice to be making a little amigurumi thing without a deadline, because usually when I'm making amigurumi it's because it's one of the girls' birthdays in like 4 days or something. So it's nice to make one under my own steam and not having to worry about it. Right, my next work in progress is in my little Cozy Cute Knits sock bag. And this is my current sort of car and travel and grab as you go knitting. I like to have a pair of vanilla socks or anything vanilla. Sock head cowls are good for this as well, or sock head hats. But these are just little socks. I'm using yarn that I had left over for making my drippity drop socks. So I made my drippity drop socks, which I talked about in the last episode. It's a pattern by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. And I used yarn that I got from Ellie of Craft House Magic, which is called Over the Rainbow and is beautiful. I got some for me and I got some for my sister, and we both made the same pattern. I forgot when I made my drippity drop socks that I had a contrast mini and I didn't use it. And the contrast mini is called Cloudy Skies. That's also by, it was a set, so it's from Craft House Magic as well, lovely Ellie. So I had enough yarn left over for making my drippity drop socks, because I also had a full 20 grams of the mini, to make another pair of socks, as long as I didn't make them too long in the leg. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing them on short circulars purely because At the moment, my preferred method of knitting socks is using DPNs, and I've only got 2 sets. So I didn't have enough sets because the other 2 were in use, so I just grabbed my the original way I learnt to knit socks, which is short circulars, and I started. So they've got really short legs. I think there's only about 15 rows in the leg after the cuff, and then I've done a heel flap and gusset, and I'm now back to my original stitch count on the foot, so I'm back to my vanilla knitting, and on the other sock I'm ready to do the heel. Oh, and I'm using my little lobster stitch markers because I love lobsters. These were a gift from my husband. He bought me a load of lobster stitch markers, and I'm actually going to put one of them on a necklace because they're just adorable. Love them. Yeah, so I've got to do the heel on this one, but I'll do the heel at home when I can concentrate, and then I can go back to vanilla knitting for when I'm in the car or on the train or plane or whatever. I decided to have a little bit of fun with the heel flap, and I thought, oh, I will do the heel from, so I've got a couple of Ellie Craft House Magic's sock patterns, and she had a lovely heel. I made a pair of her socks last year, which was the buttercup socks, and they had a lovely pretty heel. But then I remembered that she also had the Viva Valentine socks, which I think had a heart on the heel, or in my mind that's what they had. So I thought, right, I'll do that. I'll put a heart on the heel. So I went to the pattern, I was following it through, and I thought, oh, that's weird, not really looking like a heart. And then I realised I'd opened the wrong pattern. I'd opened her Christmas socks pattern. So it's a little Christmas tree on the heel. So these are kind of summer over the rainbow vanilla socks in the middle of June with a random Christmas tree heel. But we're not calling it Christmas tree heel. This is, I don't know, a summer mountain. How about that? So that's the heel from Ellie's Christmas socks pattern. What's the name of her, of that pattern? Oh, talk about disorganised. I'll put it on the screen what the name of the pattern is. But it's a really nice little detail on the heel. I really, really like it. And yeah, and it makes me happy. So it's just plain sailing from there on. I put it in my work bag and stuff like that. So if I just always think, what if I got stuck? What if I got stuck at work and I couldn't get out and I didn't have knitting? Imagine the horror. That's the other work in progress onto the floor. Okay, the big one. Oh no, let's do this one first. Okay, this is a new work in progress, which is a slightly unusual one. But it's in an incoming, so I'm going to show you this now. Look at this bag. Lovely Susanne, who is a viewer of this podcast and is originally from Denmark, has very generously given me now, I think, 4 bags for me and at least a couple as giveaways for the podcast. And they're always amazing. And I saw this on Instagram when she was making it, and then it turned up through my letterbox a few days later, and I could not believe it. Look at this lobster bag and the little spotty contrast fabric, and it's all lined with the spots as well. Thrilled to bits. These bags are absolutely gorgeous. I don't know what she uses for the lining, but it's really nice. It's kind of squidgy, but not too squidgy, but not too thin. I use one that's thinner than that, but oh, I just drink it in. Drink in the lobsters. It's just beautiful. Thank you so much, Susanne. And not only that, but she made me a matching needle cozy. Just brilliant. I just love it so much. And she made another needle cozy. Thought you could use this one as a prize or giveaway. And I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same one. So I've now got an extra one for a very special giveaway or prize for later in the year. So thank you, Susanne. That's incredibly generous of you. And someone's going to be very lucky to win that. Okay, in here is the beginnings of a very small project. There is also chocolate in here, but that's a story for another time. I'm going to need to go and get something in order to further explain this project. Bear with. Okay, many moons ago when I first started crocheting, I don't like waste of any kind really, but I particularly don't like wasting things like yarn or acrylic yarn because it's got plastic content. And many moons ago when I started crocheting, I did use mainly acrylic yarn, and every time I had even the tiniest of scraps, I crocheted it into a granny square and just kept going and going, and it became known as the ugly blanket until Phoebe a couple of years ago decided that that was unfair and changed it to the lovely blanket. But to me it will always be the ugly blanket, and I just told myself it didn't matter what the scraps were, how big it was, or what the weight was, it was going into the blanket. So this, oh no, there is a hole, look, medic, medic, repair required, no problem. I'm going to get on YouTube. Actually no, that's an easy one, isn't it, because that's just in the middle, so I just literally need to thread that through and add some reinforcement and I'll be fine. Whew. Right, anyway, that's bound to happen because in my early crochet days I was not very good at leaving long ends to weave in, so I quite often find that in my older crochet blankets I do have to do occasional repairs. This is the original ugly blanket. It really does live up to its name. About a year ago I realised I wasn't really adding to it anymore. I'd given a lot of acrylic yarn away and donated it or used it up, and also I had started using making the little bags holding it double, triple, quadruple. So I put I finished it off with the yarn that was I had put aside, and then I did a pink single crochet border all the way around and fastened it off. Phoebe was delighted because it meant it could go full time into her room, and she uses it. She's got a little den under her bed, she's got a cabin bed, so she's got lights under there and all her bits and bobs, and she can cozy up in there with a book, and she loves having the ugly blanket, as I call it, or the lovely blanket as she calls it. So that's the ugly blanket, and the reason I'm showing you that is because I've started another one. Sometimes I have scraps left of non-acrylic yarn, natural fibre yarn, which are tiny, and I never know quite what to do with them. They're too small almost to use in scrappy projects because you're talking less than 5 grams. So I decided to start another ugly blanket or another lovely blanket with all of my scraps. Now I haven't decided if weight is going to be a factor in this, but so far it's only kind of fingering weight yarn. And I put all of the tiny bits left over from my scrappy socks into this, and then I've also got tiny bits in this bag left over, and they were all 3 grams or under, so a little bit harder perhaps to make scrappy projects with. I suppose they could go in socks, couldn't they? But I want to avoid just sitting on scraps for ages and ages and ages. So anything that's going to be quite small, that can't really go comfortably into other little projects, are going to go into the new ugly blanket, which so far is looking anything but ugly. It's looking lovely because the yarns are so nice. And yeah, I'm just making a standard granny square, and I'm going to go round and round and round. I've started to make a little ball where I've tied all the ends together. I do not like that knot thing where you tie one knot and pull them together and then cut the ends. I do not trust that knot at all. It makes me feel nervous. So I always just tie them, leave ends, crochet through, and then weave in those ends. I just feel I feel a lot more comfortable with that. Yeah, so that's the start of, this is going to be a really long-term project, and it's just a good way of using up those incy-bincy little scraps. And it is going to live in my lobster bag, I've decided, because if it's a long-term project, that means my lobster bag will be long-term out, and I like that idea. So that is a lovely blanket. Right, last work in progress for today is living in my wonderful bag, which was made for me by Claudia of the Crochet Luna podcast, with whom I am running the Dodgy Bag Make Along. We ran it together last year. In fact, it was Claudia's idea, and we're running it again this year. And I will talk more about that in a moment. But we did a swap last year, and this was the bag that she sent me in that swap. It's lovely. And inside is living my Waroo shawl. Now, the Waroo shawl is a pattern by, let's just move everything out the way because this is big, is a pattern by Deanne Ramsey of Adedaye Designs. Just get out all the yarns to show you. Ooh. Right, it's a pattern by Deanne Ramsey of Adedaye Designs. She gifted me this shawl just randomly because I think I was having a bit of a crummy time of it, or a crummy week, or a bad day, and I opened up my Ravelry messages and there was a pattern from Deanne saying, sorry you're having a crummy day, here's a copy of my pattern. How nice is that? I mean, it really cheered me up, and it was such a lovely thing to do. I've spoken for ages about wanting to make one of Deanne's patterns, and I cannot speak highly enough for this one. So we do the reveal of the shawl first, or the yarn? No, let's keep you waiting. Let's do the yarns. So the yarns I'm using, the first one is this one. It is called But He's Her Lobster, and it is by Bird Street UK, Mr. B Yarns. That's the tag. It is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. It was a gift from Lou, who I mentioned earlier, ages and ages ago, and it's been one of my very precious skeins because of the colour, because of who it's from, and because of the name. So that's But He's Her Lobster. And the next colour I've got, also another one of my precious skeins, is Lobster Lagoon. This is by my lovely friend Becky of Back to Blighty. She is a fabulous yarn dyer and also has a podcast. She's lovely, Becky, and she's a very talented dyer. And this is her ball band, Lobster Lagoon. This is a special one actually because it's 65% superwash merino, 20% bamboo, 15% silk. Beautifully soft and shiny. And then the third colour is this. I can't show you a tag because I don't have one. It is by Ironbridge Yarn Studio. Ironbridge Yarn or Ironbridge Dye Studio. It's Felicity. I will link it below, and this is called Searching for Sea Glass. And I absolutely love this colour. And it's a sparkly base. Oh, I just realised I've left all of that there. And then I was toying with the idea of using a self-dyed colour that I had left over from another project, but a load of people said a dark teal would work better, so I dyed up this one. So this is just one I've dyed, a sort of dark teal colour, and this is the one I went for, and I'm very glad that I did, because this is how the colours are working up. Oh dear, it's really big. So I am so near to finishing, it's ridiculous. I've got 4 rows left. I mean, granted, they are really long rows now. Yeah, they're pretty long. But I'm on, the edging has got to a point where you don't really need to worry about counting stitches, and you can just go with the flow. So you can see you get stripe sections and lace sections, and the stripe sections help you fade into the next colour. It's a really effective sort of fade. I love it. I've never done that before. The pattern is well written. It's a right mix of sort of tricky, and you have to keep, once you get into the lace pattern and get the hang of what it's doing, it becomes very easy and you get the hang of the special stitches. But you do have to concentrate and get your head around it. But then for every lace row, there's just a plain row of single crochet or half double crochets, and then you get the stripe sections where you are just double crocheting and you've only got to concentrate at the ends, and it just makes it the perfect pattern really. It keeps your brain going, but it's also mindless at times as well. And as you can see, it's making quite a sizable shawl. I'm making the large version. There are two versions, small and large, and the large version uses 4 colours, but the smaller version uses 3 colours. So, or no, yeah, is that right? I think so. I think that's the difference, but I'm making the large version and I'm very glad I am. There was a time when I was when I first went into the 2nd to 3rd colour, I was beginning to think, oh, I'm not sure this is going to work. And then all of a sudden it came together, and it was the teal that really brought it together. So if you were one of the people a few episodes ago that suggested using the teal, thank you, you were right. I listened to you. Let's do a close-up. And you definitely made the right call. Quite impressed with myself. I'm dyeing it, to be honest. Ooh. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Can't wait to get it finished. I'm hoping I'll be able to get it finished before I go away on Monday. Be nice to get that done and blocked before I go. So that is the Waroo shawl. Is there anything else to say about that? Oh, I'm using a 4.5mm hook. In the pattern, for some of the rows, Deanne suggests using a slightly larger hook, but I'm just using the same hook for all my rows, and that is working out really well for me. It's coming out no problem. And this is the picture on the front of the pattern. It's a crochet version of a knitted shawl, and it's the Kimber shawl by Amber O'Brien. I'd be tempted to have a look actually and make the knitted version as well. And that's Deanne's one there, the Waroo shawl. And actually this is, I think I've got about 30 or 40 grams left of the 2nd and 3rd colour, and about 60 grams left of the 1st colour. So I thought it was going to use up all my yarn, but it really hasn't. So I've got leftovers. I've almost got enough to make another one, but with the yarns in a different order. Or maybe I might put these into one of Deanne's other patterns, like the blur shawl, which I've wanted to make for a long time. But yeah, it's interesting that I had yarn left over when I thought I wasn't going to at all. I thought it was going to completely use up those skeins, but it didn't. So that is my final work in progress that I'm going to talk about today. Let's move on to Project from Yore. This is where I talk about a project that I've made in the past. It is not knitting, it is not crochet, but a sewing project. You're gonna like this. Okay, what was the first? Right, so this was the first one. Yeah, I should lift her up like this. This is Moopy Bunny. Now, Moopy Girl Bunny. It is based on a pattern in the book Curious Creatures for Immature Adults. Every year on their birthdays, my children choose something that they want me to make them. And for a few years, they chose from that book because it was just full of the craziest, ridiculous creatures. And one of the well, they're kind of recipes more than patterns, was for the Moopy Bunny. I'm pretty sure it was called Moopy Bunny. I'm pretty sure we haven't just adapted that. And I adapted that slightly for what we wanted. She wanted a pretty girl bunny, so obviously she has got eyelashes and she looks very friendly. The fabrics are all meaningful. They're fabrics that we have around our home and our house. In particular, this kids and fabric appears on a lot of stuff that the girls remember from growing up. And this was made for Phoebe for one of her birthdays. And then a couple of years ago, we were going on a road trip, I think up to Scotland. And as a surprise for the car journey, I made a boy version for Phoebe. So she got in the car on the morning of going to Scotland, and in her car seat was Moopy Boy. So Moopy Boy has got lobster fabric in his ears, and many of you will recognise his shorts because this is from an old cushion that I picked up in a charity shop many moons ago, and I've used it in a lot of my bags and so on. And the shirt is actually cut from one of Dan's old shirts, so it's like a shirt they've seen Daddy wearing. And I just made the pattern up so he had a shirt and shorts rather than just a skirt. And what they're made of, this corduroy that they're made of, again, that is an old cushion. We had 2 or 3 of them on our sofas in our old house, and when it was time to replace them, I used them for Moopy bunnies. So I'm going to try and see if I can get some more kind of fabric like that, because what I want to do next with my Moopy bunnies is make miniature versions. So I've already shrunk my pattern pieces. So at the time of making these, I drew pattern pieces. But as you can see, they are quite large. So I've shrunk them by half, the pattern pieces. And my plan is to make a couple of other Moopy bunnies as a surprise for the girls when we go on a road trip up to Scotland in August. Yeah, but these live on Phoebe's bed. She absolutely loves the Moopy bunnies. Look at their ridiculous ears. And I think they're really lovely. They've got their own little personality, and I like that they've got fabrics that mean something to us. So I will do that with the miniature ones as well. They'll both have fabrics and things that mean something to us as a family. Right, Moopy bunnies away. Right, the Dodgy Bag MAL. We've extended it till the end of June. You'll be glad to hear. So you've got until the end of the month to make your dodgy bags and get them into the FO thread. I'm hosting the finished objects thread in my Ravelry group. It will be linked below. And Claudia is hosting a very busy chatter thread in her group. We're also going to draw a prize from the Instagram hashtag, which is Dodgy Bag MAL 19. I think that's right. So make sure you use that if you're posting on Instagram. I have been very busily making bags, not the bag that I intended to make, but I have been making bags. I'm going to share those with you. But before I do, I just wanted to remind you that, so it's till the end of June. Post your finished objects in the finished objects thread. I have got some prizes, and so has Claudia. I've got some Attic Spin Dye yarn, which I showed last time. The Wingardium Leviosa socks, which is a pattern by Green Lampkin Yarns, which I will put a picture up on the screen of now so you can see. And I've also got a new prize, which is this. I just had this surprise parcel in the post from Hannah, lovely Hannah of Hannah from Sheep Salad. No arguments, I am her biggest fan. So if you think you're her biggest fan, you're wrong, because I am. It's me. I'm slightly obsessed with her. I'm her stalker. She's so creative. I'm constantly in awe of her energy, her creativity, how positive she is. I feel like I just got a little rain cloud over my head most of the time, just thinking about, oh, isn't it terrible? Oh, I shouldn't do that. Oh my goodness, oh, it's so hard. And she's just like the opposite. She's amazing. And she sent me a gift for me and a prize for the Dodgy Bag MAL. And these are her stitch marker necklaces. I was going to wear mine today, but because we've had the weirdest weather. I mean, I've been loving it. It's really dry today. And one of the reasons I didn't film yesterday was because it rained all day. I've never seen, we had a month's worth of rainfall in a day yesterday. It was ridiculous. Our gutter broke out the front. We had water gushing down the side of the house. We're going to have to get that fixed just from the force of the water coming off the roof. It just didn't stop, and it was so dark. I couldn't film. It was just too dark to film. It was like night time. And today it's dry. It's not going to rain today. Which is good because my little Phoebe is on a school trip down to Lullingston today. But it's cooler. It's only sort of low, it's sort of 17 degrees Celsius, which is, I like to work in Fahrenheit. It makes more sense to me. So I think that's about sort of 63. So it was cool enough for a jumper, and the necklace didn't really go with my jumper. I'll put it on. It looked a bit weird. I was going to wear a vest, and if I was wearing a vest, it would look lovely. So this is the one I'm keeping. Stop talking about the weather and start talking about the blimmin' stuff that people have come to watch. These are the necklaces that Hannah made. They are stitch marker necklaces. So you've got the beautiful necklace part with the beads, which are yellow, which I thoroughly approve of. And then it kind of joins with a little, oh, I don't know what you call that kind of join, the little thing that goes through the hole, sort of like a hook and eye type join. These are the little tags that she's put on. I'll just flatten it to show you. It's going to be really hard. It says stitch marker necklace from Hannah from Sheep's Alley, but I'm not going to be able to film that. And then at the end, and stand up to show you, you've got a little bit that says knit, and then there's a little clasp, and then on the clasp is the 2 little stitch markers which Hannah has made herself. And then on the other one you've got a little, she said it's a little not my cat pin. The clasp is slightly different. You've got knit, and then you've got some different stitch markers there. This is the one that's going to be for the prize. This one here with the not my cat on it. And then you've got the beads are a kind of delicate blue colour. It's so pretty, it really is. And you could wear it and no one would guess for a second that it was actually a functioning stitch marker holding necklace. I'm keeping this one with the silver beads, just because that was the one that appealed to me most. Yeah, so thank you so much, Hannah, for those. So this one here, a lucky winner is going to get that one as one of the prizes. And I will wear my necklace next time if I'm wearing a vest to show it in action. Thank you, Hannah. Okay, so that's the extra prize that I wanted to talk about. And I think that's everything to say about it, other than going to show you the dodgy bags that I've been making. Now, I've been making all of these as gifts and prizes and other such things. And there's a few that aren't here because I've already sent them to people as presents or swaps or thank yous, etc. So I made this little one. This one is actually destined for someone in particular from the very early days of my podcast. I really love this one and I was really happy with how it came out, and I had to be really happy with it in order to send it to the person that I'm going to send it to. This is another one. All of the bottoms with denim are from an old pair of my jeans that had got a hole in them, so I give them a good wash, a good iron, and they are now in a new lease of life. Little knitting pouch. They've all got different linings. This one's got an animal print lining. The little one here before has got, this is a vintage duvet lining. It's a percale cotton. It's lovely and smooth. I've got a lot of that, which I use a lot for linings. And now the rest are drawstring ones, which I haven't actually put drawstrings in. So this is one of my yoga bags. I love this little yoga fabric. This is particularly dodgy. I seem to remember, or maybe it isn't this one. Again, it's got my vintage duvet lining in there. And the blue fabric here is actually from a pair of Dan's old trousers. He had a pair of blue trousers and a pair of brown trousers that he was getting rid of, so I gave him a really good wash and cut them up and harvested the material for the base of bags. This is the brown fabric. I really like this one actually. Don't know why, I just like the blue and the brown. Like that. Again, it's got the vintage lining. And I've got this one. This one is dodgy because of the interfacing. I had this interfacing in my stash that I thought, oh, I'll use that up, and it's iron on, but it just makes everything look a bit crinkly. And if you put it in your bag and squoosh it up, it just kind of retains its crinkle. I'm going to call this the crinkle bag. I still really like it. It's just dodgy, as are all my bags, and that is just lined with a simple grey colour. Like I say, they all need drawstrings. These ones I really like. I have these are all from Fat Quarters that I got from Hobbycraft, and I just mixed them with the recycled fabric underneath. I've already given some of these ones away. I just really like the stripes. So this is just purple and brown with the contrasty yellow bit. Really like this one. And that's just got grey in the middle. And this is the pink and green with the brown. I like using brown. I think brown sets off colours nicely. And that again has just got the grey in the middle. It's all very wonky. This one I really love. I think I know exactly who this is going to. I'm just determining if it's big enough or if I need to make another one. What do you think? Would you say? I don't know why I'm asking you, because you stop talking. Right, I really like this bag is the point. This is the denim from my old jeans, and then it's got this sort of origami animal. I love origami. I do origami quite a bit, and these have got little origami animals, but most importantly, you've got your origami magpie. And I talk a lot about magpies on my vlogs. Yeah, so that's a bit of a bigger one, sort of shawl size bag. And last but not least, I have finished. I am so pleased with this, and I'm really pleased to be showing you, because then it means that I can use it. My Copenhagen bag. So when we went to Denmark last year, I bought a touristy tea towel at the airport with the intention of turning it into a bag. And I've turned it into a huge bag. That's the other side. It turned out to be quite difficult because the fabric of the tea towel was not really tea towel fabric. It was this weird kind of nylon type stuff, but I've kind of put interfacing in to give it a bit of structure. Again, the old jeans on the bottom. I did a contrast bit on the top in order that I could sew reinforcement onto the straps, which I have done, and I just got strapping from eBay, and in the end I decided to go for black to match the print. It's huge, it fits over my shoulder like this, and it's going to, depending if it's the right size or not, it might be coming with me as my hand luggage on the plane, you know, your handbag, but it might be too big. But otherwise it's going to be a brilliant shopping bag. One more thing, Claudia and I are going to do a live Instagram stream on Saturday morning. So I'm filming this on Tuesday, it is the 11th of June. Saturday will be the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th of June. And it'll be 8 o'clock in the morning UK time, which is midday in the time of wherever Claudia is in America. I can't remember where you are, Claudia. Anyway, I'm going to look it up, but wherever you are in the world, it's going to be 8 AM UK time. So work it out from there. We'll be live on Instagram talking about the Dodgy Bag MAL. Right, hurry up. Sharing the love. And then we'll do the giveaway winners. Okay, so I haven't done sharing the love for the last couple of episodes just because there hasn't been time. It's quite clear there's not really enough time now, but we're gonna do it anyway. I like to theme my sharing the love sections. Oh, this is the bit where I talk about anything I want I just want to share the love for. So it might be a podcaster, well, podcasters, or it might be designers or dyers or Etsy sellers or Instagrammers or books or anything I like, but it's usually people. And I usually group them into themes like, you know, podcasts I've watched the longest, or you know, designers that crochet designers. And the last couple of episodes I have focused primarily on people I've discovered via the diversity hashtag on Instagram. So I wanted to kind of stay around that kind of theme, and I wanted to share some podcasters who are podcasters of colour. So 3 women of colour who have podcasts. When I talked about designers, I contacted them first to ask if it was okay to do things like share pictures, because obviously that's their images. When I talk about podcasters, I don't contact them because they're podcasters and I can stalk who I like on YouTube. So if I want to share the love for them, I will, and I won't ask permission. I can stalk who I like. So these 3 women I've chosen just because they are all so interesting, and their making lives and podcasts are really varied, and I find them, all 3 of these ladies, really inspiring. None of them really need any introduction from me, but if, like me, you are still thinking a lot about the issue of particularly inclusion and representation in your Instagram feeds and your YouTube subscriptions, then if you haven't discovered these women, they are wonderful and they're a really good place to start discovering. I hope that all makes sense, and I hope I've said that in a good way. So I didn't discover any of these ladies via the Diverse Knitty hashtag. I've discovered them all in completely different ways. 2 of them I've discovered more recently, and 1 of them I've known for known of for quite a long time. So I will explain how I found each of them as I go. Okay, so the first person I want to share the love for is Mars from Hey Brown Berry. Now, if you have not heard of Hey Brown Berry, you possibly have been living under a rock somewhere. I've discovered her some time ago, mainly because she's just like a knitting and crochet rock star, and she really needs no introduction at all. She lives in South Florida. She's a mother to 2 girls who are quite a bit, well, not quite a bit, but a bit older than my 2. I think she's got one off to university soon. I think she was a home, or is a homeschooling mum as well. Her podcast is very atmospheric, very calming, whereas I'm constantly and I'm talking too fast, and I'm not. Hers is very considered. You're in safe hands with Mars. You know that what she's talking about is considered and calm and quiet and careful. She is a very sort of grounded person, and yeah, if I need to calm down, that's the podcast for me. She talks about natural dyeing, which she's learning about, spinning, knitting, crochet, books. She's been doing spinning vlogs for the Spin and Make Along that Mina the Knitting Expat and Grace of the Bubbles Travelling Yarn podcast have been running. She's a hand spinner as well, which I find really interesting. I haven't actually watched any of those vlogs, so I might go and do that, because obviously I have a drop spindle, and as I said previously, I am baffled. Even though I've done workshops and the lot, the full process end to end baffles me. I get the spinning bit, I don't get the plying bit or the soaking bit, or how to turn it into, a skein of yarn that looks like yarn rather than just tangled up fleece. She's also a designer. She has designed 2 patterns that are on Ravelry, the Ritual Shawl and the Pebbles and Pathways socks. The Pebbles and Pathways socks, I noticed, have been talked about quite a bit, so you may have heard of those already. I've not made either of them, but they both look amazing. So that is my first podcaster to share the love for. So if you haven't checked her out, Mars of Hey Brown Berry. Okay, the next one is Constance. Now, Constance is stitching over the days on YouTube, and she's not that on Instagram. She is Cleo something on Instagram. I'll put it on the screen what she is on Instagram. Now, Constance actually messaged me on Instagram. She's in South Carolina. She has the best accent, and she sent me a lovely message on Instagram, just to say, I really like your podcast, and it was just really nice of her to do that. And I went and looked at her feed, saw that she had a podcast, and started watching. She sews amazing things. She also knits and crochets, and she has a very distinct signature vintage inspired style. It's a kind of, I would say, kind of 40s, 50s kind of inspired, and she is always so well put together. She is as neat as a pin, is what my mum would say. She is just, I just wish that I had even just that much of her style. Phoebe absolutely loves her. If I'm watching her podcast, she just thinks she's amazing. She did Me Made May, where you post like handmade outfits every day of May, and she did like a summary of it on her Instagram, but she did a video summary of it in her latest episode, which was episode 24 on YouTube, where because when she did the pictures, she did little videos where she turned around in each video, and she did a montage of that at the end of her episode where you saw all of her Me Made outfits. It's amazing. You have to go and watch it. She is such a talented person, and if you watch that episode, particularly that montage, you will be hooked. She's also just lovely, and she's so expert on what she talks about. When she talks about knitting a garment or sewing a garment, you know that she knows what she's on about. She's really lovely. So that's Constance, Stitching Over the Days. That's my second person for showing the love, so please do go and check her out. And my third one probably needs no introduction at all, because it is Kalisha from the Quirky Monday podcast. Now, in a way, I discovered Kalisha because I'd heard Hannah from the Cozy Cottage Crochet mention her quite a lot, but I'd never gone across to look at her podcast, purely because I was just thinking, do you know what, I don't need another podcast. I really don't need to get into another podcast. I've got so many and I can't even keep up with the ones that I've already got. I've actually unfollowed lots of people recently on YouTube, like some of the bigger podcasts, because I just found I wasn't really watching them anymore. I found so many new ones that I tend to gravitate towards that I just thought I'm going to unsubscribe from a few of the ones that I really just don't watch, to make room. Anyway, I digress. So I hopped on over to watch the Quirky Monday podcast after Hannah again talked about Kalisha in a lot more detail earlier this year. And I thought, right, I'm going to go and see what this is all about. What is it that Hannah loves about this girl? And I can immediately see. She's in Central Florida, and she has mainly weekly vlogs, so I do find it quite hard to keep up with her because it's weekly. She's very productive in the things she makes. She's extremely creative. She is she's kind of a very relaxed person. She's got 2 adorable dogs. She usually podcasts in her garden, and she just chats. It's like sitting in her garden, drinking tea, in the Florida sunshine, just chatting. That's what it's like. It's just very calm, very relaxed podcast. And she talks about crochet. She talks about weaving. She has made amazing weavings. She did a circle one. Oh, just lovely. Spinning, sewing, knitting. Last episode that I watched, she was wearing a crocheted yellow hat and a yellow, it was like an ombre top, but you could only see the top of it from where she was sitting. So she had the yellow hat and the yellow top, and it was beautiful. I was just like, look at all the yellow, look at all the yellow, and it looked lovely. She's got three patterns, I think, on Ravelry at the moment, and I think she's got another one coming out imminently, because I saw that she was talking about it, and I'm sure it was not Pisces but the Gemini, because it's kind of a mirror thing, and Hannah was talking about it on a podcast I was watching of hers as well. So Gemini wrap or shawl. Anyway, that's very unresearched, sorry about that. But yeah, she's definitely got a new pattern coming out soon, and I would definitely recommend her. I really enjoy watching hers. I usually, when I have Kalisha's podcast on, it's usually when I'm cooking, and I don't know, it's just nice. It's like I've got someone chatting to me in a really relaxed, friendly way whilst I'm cooking. Yeah, so that's my third one for sharing the love. I hope you go and check all of those people out. They're definitely well worth adding to your, well, it's not for me to tell you. Go and see for yourselves, because I'm sure you will not be disappointed. Right, let me just check. I'm not doing patterns on my radar. We've got no time for that. Giveaway winners. Okay. A horrible moment then. I thought I'd lost all my notes on the giveaway winners. I was about to cry. But I've just found them. I wrote them in a really small little space here. So we had 3 giveaways running from the last episode. And they were all 4 patterns. It was the Hint of Sophistication socks, which I'll put up on the screen, which I have got all set up. I'm going to be making those. That's a pattern by Jen Sheelan. The Dragon Toes socks, also by Jen Sheelan, and the Summer Shorties sock hub by Lily of Nordic Stitches, which was a collaboration with Helen of Giddy Knits. Okay, so for the Hint of Sophistication socks, I had talked about how that had reminded me of a quote from one of my favourite films, which is French Kiss with Meg Ryan and Kevin Kline. So my prompt for this was, what's your favourite movie quote? I used random number generator and our friend Alexa to draw a winner. There were 39 9 posts altogether, so I asked her to draw a number between 2 and 39, and the winning number was 35, and that is Nitty Emerald, and that is Emerald, and the quote she said was from one of my other favourite films, which is "You're welcome," which is Maui in Moana. So congratulations, Emerald, you are the winner of the Hint of Sophistication socks. I will contact Jen and ask her to send them to you. Next up was the Dragon Toes socks. We had 57 entries in that, so I asked our friend over there to pick a random number between 2 and 57. She pulled out number 14, which is Miriel Giroux, French name, which I probably said completely wrong. She is in Canada, and the prompt for that was, what was your favourite kind of book or TV series or film that involves dragons? And she said How to Train Your Dragon, and my girls would thoroughly agree with that. And the last one was the Summer Shorties Club, and that had 70 entries. So I asked Alexa to choose a number between 2 and 70. She pulled up number 28. That is Dunkle Dan 27. That is Anne in Wales. And my prompt for that was, what is your favourite native wildflower to where you live? Anne is in Wales, and she said, can you guess? The daffodil, which is one of my absolute favourite flowers as well, and is also the national flower of Wales. Is that right? Why do I associate daffodils with Wales? National flower, isn't it? I hope I'm right. So congratulations, and I will ask Lily to send you a copy of the Summer Shorties collection as well. Thank you so much to Jen and Lily and Helen for donating the prize. It's really, really lovely to be able to give things away, and also to help share the love for things like patterns that have just been released. It's one of the great joys of doing a podcast. And with that, I close my show notes book and realise that I've just spent the last almost 2 hours just rambling at you. I'm really hungry and I need another cup of tea. So, as I've said, I'm going away on Monday to Spain. I'm going to be away from very early Monday morning until very late Thursday night. And I'm probably going to be suffering the after effects of that for some time, because travelling and... Anyway, I'm sure we're going to have fun. I'm going to get lots of books read, and we've got a pool, so I'm going to do lots and lots of swimming and just try and enjoy the time, very unusual time away. Although I'm going to miss my kids so much, and Dan, obviously. So when I get back, I hope to film another podcast. It will not be a month between between episodes, because we don't have builders anymore, and my time is more my own. I will not be vlogging in July. I had considered it. At the moment, lovely Gaynor, who is Tales from Cuckoo Land, is doing June vlogs, and they're lovely. You've got to hop over and have a look at her vlogs. They are just little highlights at the end of my day. Before that, it was Sherry, Avoli and Bella, and I've just been really enjoying vlogs, and I had again been tempted to maybe do it in July, but July is nuts. With the end of the school year and everything that goes on in July, I think it would just drive me into the ground, so I'm definitely not doing that. But I'll definitely be doing Vlogtober, and I'll definitely be doing little vlogs here and there, especially over the summer. I'll definitely do something when I'm in Scotland. I've done a May vlog. I just took footage all throughout May, and I've just been editing it together, as I said, so I'm going to work out how to get that up to you, whether I just upload it or put it as a link underneath this video. And I'll put a little vlog at the end of this, just some footage of the new bathroom. Hopefully, if there's time. I'm gonna have to cut loads out. Yeah, so that's me, all done. I'm off to Spain. I've got to go shopping and dye my hair and do all kinds of preparation for that. Until I see you again in a few weeks' time. Well, hopefully not a few weeks, hopefully a couple of weeks. Happy knitting and happy crocheting. See you soon. Bye. Okay, so here is the still not quite finished bathroom, but it is a usable, almost finished space. If you can hear from the echo, it is very echoey because we haven't got any cupboards back on the walls, because we've still got to touch up. Don't know if you can see here, but there was some touching up he had to do on the walls, and we have to paint that. You can see where he's rubbed it all down. So we just need to do a bit of painting to finish it off. You can see it there as well. So we've got panelling, That's our sink cupboard. Let's close the door so I can show you. Toilet, not very interesting. That's just a little post-it note that Phoebe has put in. Open for towel to wipe water off the tap, because I'm now obsessed with keeping the new taps clean. And you can see from the bottle here, we've got paint and everything all over it. From everything that's been going on in this room. We've got the brickwork is actually tiles, which is very clever, and my builder very cleverly mitered me a little space, and we've measured it. It's exactly the right height for a Prosecco glass. Those bits that are there aren't staying there, we're just slowly moving things back in so they're not in our bedroom anymore. That little tile is one of my favourite things. Bought that in Cornwall a couple of years ago, and I love it. And this little thing here is going to hang with a plant in it eventually, and I bought that when we were in Denmark last year, and I bought it in Netto. I absolutely love it, and I think it looks really nice against the brickwork. There's a towel, and then I've got another little hanging thing from Cornwall up there. That's a light. And then this is a little extravagance that I promised myself if we ever got a new bathroom. It's a hand-turned light pool. It's oak. It's waxed oak. Really nice to hold. That's from Etsy. It was about £13. It wasn't like breaking the bank extravagant, but still extravagant for a light pool, let's face it. And then we've got this huge cupboard. Do I dare show you what's inside? Messes inside. It's an enormous cupboard, and at the moment we've just shoved everything in there until we've got all the rest of our storage back in here. Yeah, and that's my blind, which I love. That's from Blinds to Go. It's waterproof. So yeah, just a little bit of touching up, and we're done and dusted. The new bathroom.